Hello everyone, good morning. I hope you all will be safe and sound as you are discussing in the third chapter of history, that is ruling to the countryside. So in the previous video we had discussed how the British East India Company mainly, how it turns to India for the indigo plantation, as we were discussing in the previous video, mainly that at that time the industrialization that took place in Britain, okay, many of the textile industries, they came into existence. So after this one we discuss how the indigo was cultivated here. Two systems were there, that is niche cultivation and rayati. Okay, so we have discussed. So now whatever the remaining part we are going to discuss, the problem with niche cultivation. What was the problem with the niche cultivators over there? See what they had given. The planters found it difficult to expand the area under niche cultivation. Whoever the planters were there, they wanted to expand the area under the niche cultivation. Mean to say they wanted to grow more and more plants of indigo. Indigo could be cultivated only on fertile lands, and these were all already densely populated. So as we all know that the indigo, they could be cultivated, the indigo plantation, they could only just cultivate it, they could only plant it only the fertile lands, and these all were already densely populated. Then one small plot scattered over the landscape could be acquired. Over small plots, only the small plots, whatever the small plots were there. So these all small plots which were spreading or extending over there, only these landscape can be used for the niche cultivation. Planters needed large areas in compact blocks to cultivate indigo in plantations. Whoever the planters were there, whoever these planters, what they wanted the large tracts of the land to cultivate indigo in these fields. Where could they get such landforms? From where they will get? So what they did, they attempted to lease in the land around the indigo factory. Whatever the indigo factories were there, so what they did, they took the land in the lease. Lease means to say here, they took the land in contract from the lenders. Then after, what they had given here, and evict the peasants from the area. And they also just moved away the peasants from these areas. Means the peasants, the farmers, they were not allowed to do anything in these areas. But this always led to conflicts and tensions, as the land that was taken by the planters and whoever the farmers were there, they were evicted, they were just moved away from this place. So after this one, what happened between the planters and the farmers, always it led to the conflict, debate and tension. Nor was labor easy to mobilize. A large plantation required a vast number of hands to operate. So as if large plantation, if you are going for the large plantation over the large tracts of the land, so definitely it needs a huge number of hands to operate, means to say huge number of laborers it needed. Okay, and labor was needed precisely at a time when peasants were usually busy with their rice cultivation. Mean to say the laborers, these were not easily available at the time when the farmers, they were indoors and they were busy in the rice cultivation. Then after, niche cultivation on the large scale also required many plow and bullocks. If you are going for definitely for the niche cultivation on a large scale, so it requires many plows, okay, many bullocks as well. Whatever the procedure for plowing the land at the time, so it needs a lot. 1 biga of indigo cultivation required 2 plow. This means that a planter with 1000 biga would need 2000 plows. Biga, that is one kind of unit to measuring the land. You might have heard this term. We also use in our local language this word. So this is the unit of measuring the land. So as they have given here that if the indigo is required in 1 biga land, so 2 plows are needed. It means if somebody is having the 1000 biga, so it needed 2000 plows. Investing on purchase and maintenance of plows was a big problem. Investing to purchase and to maintenance of the plows for tilling their field. So the investment was a big problem for these planters. Nor could supplies be easily got from the peasants since their plows and bullocks were busy on their rice fields. Why it is so? Because most of the farmers, whatever they were having the plows and the bullocks for tilling their land, they were busy in sowing the rice fields for the cultivation of rice fields. Again, exactly at the time that the indigo planters needed them. Same time when the indigo planters, they needed the the same time for just cultivation of the indigo, at the same time the farmers were also busy with their rice cultivation. Then till the late 19th century, planters were therefore reluctant to expand the area under niche cultivation. So till the late means in the 19th century, so whoever the planters were there who had taken the land on lease, so they didn't want, they reluctant, they unwilling to expand the area under the niche cultivation. Less than 25% of the land producing indigo was under this system. So till that time they have given less than 25%, whatever the land was there, so it was under the indigo cultivation. The rest was under an alternative mode of cultivation, the rayati system. So the rest of the part they have told here, it is an alternative mode of cultivation, that is rayati system. Now we will come to know about the rayati system. Indigo on the land of rayats. Okay, so what was this system? See, under the rayati system, the planters forced the rayats to sign a contract. So rayats need to say these were the farmers. Okay, so under the rayati system, the planters just made an agreement with these rayats, with these peasants, to sign on a contract, an agreement known as satta. At times, they pressurized the village headman to sign the contract on behalf of the rayats. So at that time, what happened? Whoever the European planters were there, they just pressurized, they forced, they emphasized to the village headman to sign the contract on behalf of these rayats and on behalf of these landowners or peasants. Then those who signed the contract got cash advance from the planters at a low rate of interest to produce indigo. And whoever the peasants were there who signed these agreements, so what they they got the cash from the planters in advance in a low price to produce the indigo. But the loan committed the rayas to cultivating indigo on at least 25% of the area under his holding. And whatever the peasants, whatever the land holders were there, whatever they were having the land, if they were signing on the contract, so what they had to do, whatever the land they were having, so on their on their land, 25% area, in this 25% area, these peasants, these farmers, these landholders, they had to cultivate the indigo. Okay, this was the agreement. The planter provided the seed and the drill while the cultivators prepared the soil, sowed the seed and looked after the crops. So the planter, whoever the planters were there, they used to provide the seed and the drill, and while the cultivators prepared the soil, sowed the seed and look after the crop. Then after, you can see downside some of the pics they have shown. In this one they have shown how the cultivation was done and how it just sent to the factories. Okay, then after, how was indigo produced? So in this one you can see how the indigo that has been turned that has been just sent into the factories, and how that has been harvested, and after this one how that has been turned into the rich blue color, from where they can dye their clothes. You can read in this one box and you will come to know automatically. Then after, when the crops was delivered to the planter after the harvest under the rayati system, a new loan was given to the rayats. If you have just harvested the particular crop, that is indigo, and after delivering to the planter, okay, so a new loan new kind of the cash that was given by the planters to the ryots. And the cycle started all over again, and the same process that continued again. Peasants who were initially tempted by the loan soon realized that how harsh the system was. Peasants in the beginning who were taking the loan from these planters, and they just agreed, they just signed on the agreement. So later on what happened, they realized about it, how harsh, how bad the system was. The price they got for the indigo they produced was very low, and the cycle of loan never ended. And whatever the indigo was produced by them, so they were getting very low prices for it, and the cycle of loan never ended. And whatever they were having the loan from these planters, so it continually rose up. Okay. Then there were other problems too. There were some other problems also which were faced by the peasants. The planters usually insisted that indigo be cultivated on the best soil in which peasants prefer to cultivate rice. So the planters mainly, they just forced to these peasants, these farmers, to grow the indigo on the best fertile soil, and which the farmers, they wanted to cultivate the rice. Indigo, moreover, had deep roots and it exhausted the soil rapidly. And as the indigo plantation, it is having the deep roots, and whatever the fertility in the soil, it totally exhausted by these roots of indigo. After an indigo harvest, the land could not sown with rice. If once you have cultivated the indigo plant, if you have just planted the indigo in the particular land, so if you have harvested the indigo, after this one, this land would not be more fertile, and you could not cultivate the rice on the same piece of land. Then the Blue Rebellion and after. Then what happened? Blue Rebellion, that is related to the indigo production. So this, many of the people, many of the peasants, farmers, riots, these all just raised their voice against this. And it came to be known as Blue Rebellion. And afterward, what happened? See, in March 1859, thousands of riots in Bengal refused to grow indigo. So thousands of the riots, thousands of the peasants in Bengal, they refused to grow indigo. Okay, they didn't want to grow indigo more in their fields. As the rebellion spread, as the revolt, as this voice spreaded, riots refused to pay rents to the planters and attacked indigo factories armed with sword and spears, bows and arrows. So what happened after this one? These all the peasants came together and they refused even to pay the rents to the planters, and they attacked on indigo factories, armed with sword and spears. They just brought with them the sword and the spears, bow and arrows. Women turned up to fight with pots, pans and kitchen implements. Even the women, they took also participate in this revolt, and they just came in this one revolt to fight with these planters with pots, pans and kitchen implements. Those who worked for the planters were socially boycotted, and the Gomastha, agents of planters who came to collect rent, were beaten up. Then what happened? Those who worked for the planter, whoever the persons in that time, so these who worked for the planters, they were socially boycotted. Mean to say, they were socially just neglected by these people. And the Gomasthas mean to say, whoever the agents of the planters, they came to be known as Gomasthas, then who used to come for collecting the rent, they were also caught by these peasants and they were beaten up. Riots swore, whoever the riots were there, whoever the peasants were there, they swore, they took the oath. They would no longer take advance to sow indigo, nor be bullied by the planters, lathials, the lathi-wielding strongmen maintained by the planters. So what they who took the oath, what they promised themselves, so they would no longer grow any kind of the indigo in their fields, and they will not take any kind of the advance to sow the indigo in their fields, and as well as they will not be bullied. Bullied means dadagiri, means whatever the dadagiri and whatever the bulliness that was shown by the Lathials, okay, they will not get affected by it. The Lathials mainly, these were the people, Lathi wielding strong men maintained by the planter for their security. Okay, then why did the indigo peasants decide that they would no longer remain silent? Whoever the peasants, indigo farmers were there, why they decide they would no longer remain silent? What gave them the power to rebel? Clearly, the indigo system was intensely oppressive. Intensely very oppressive system this indigo plantation was. But those who are oppressed do not always rise up in that is rebellion. They do so only at times. However, whoever the person they face the same problem who opposed, so they do not always rise up. They do not take always participate in the revolt. They do only this thing at the same time. Now, what happened? See, in 1859, the Indigo riots felt that they had the support of local jamidars and village headmen in their rebellion against the planters. So, what happened? The Indigo riots, whoever the indigo planters, indigo farmers who were there, who used to cultivate the indigo in their fields. So, what they thought, they felt that they had the support of the local jamidars, whoever the planters are there. They were getting the support of the local jamidars, village headmen, and their rebellion against the planters. In many villages, headmen who had been forced to sign indigo contracts mobilized the indigo peasants and fought peace battles with the Lathials. So, what happened with these in many villages? Whoever these headmen were there, who had been forced to sign on this agreement, as we have discussed previously. Okay, they mobilized, they moved the indigo peasants and fought. So there, the indigo peasants also fought the peace battles with these Lathials. In other places, even the jamidars went around villages, that is urging the riots to resist the planters. These jamidars were unhappy with the increasing power of the planters and angry at being forced by the planters to give them land on the long leases. Even the jamidars, they also supported, they were also unhappy, they were also not happy, and they also just supported to these peasants, these farmers, these villagers to fought against the planters. That jamidars land that had taken by the planters for a long time in lease. Okay. Then after, the indigo peasants also imagined that the British government would support them in their struggle against the planters. So whoever the indigo farmers were there, who just initiated in the revolt, so they also thought that the British government, it would also support to them in their struggle against the planters. After the revolt of 1857, the British government was particularly worried about the possibilities of another popular rebellion. As in the upcoming chapters, you will come to know about the revolt of 1857, and you might have also seen and you might have also read in the previous classes as well about the revolt of 1857. So after this one, the British government got feared. It was worried, it was tensed that there may be the possibility of another popular rebel, another popular revolt in upcoming years. When the news spread of a simmering revolt in indigo districts, the lieutenant governor toured the region in the winter of 1859. When this news spread, and they came to that, the British officials, they came to know about the revolt, which were mainly in the indigo districts, where the indigo was just cultivated and where the farmers were forced by the European planters to grow the indigo. So what happened? The lieutenant governor who toured the region in the winter time in 1859. The riots saw the tour as a sign of government sympathy for their plight. So whoever the peasants, whoever the riots were there, they just saw this tour of this governor as a sign of government sympathy, as government mercy for their plight, whatever their plightness is there, whatever their sorrowness is there. Then When in Barsat, the magistrate, that is Ashley Eden, issued a notice that is stating that Rayat would not be compelled to accept indigo contracts. Okay, and word went around the Queen Victoria had declared that indigo need not to be sown. Then, whatever the district magistrate were there, so the magistrate, mainly that is Ashley Eden, he issued a notice that the riots would not be compelled, they would not be forced to grow the indigo and to accept the indigo contract. And this also same notice that went to the Queen Victoria at that time and also declared that indigo need not to be sown in their field. Then Eden was trying to, that is, placate the peasants and control an explosive situation, but his action was read as support for the rebellion. As the Eden, he was the magistrate at the time, whatever he just tried to placate the peasants and control, whatever the angerness that was of the peasants, try to control over it, and whatever the explosive situation in these places, so he tried to just control over it. But this action, whatever the action has been taken by the Eden, it was read as, and it was just felt by the Britishers as a support for these riots and these revolutionaries. Then, after, as the rebellion spread, as the that revolt, it spread, so what happened? Intellectuals from Calcutta rushed to the indigo districts. They wrote of the misery of the riots, the tyranny of the planters, and the horrors of the indigo system. So after this one, what happened? As the rebellion spread, as the revolt, it spread it in many parts. So what happened? They have given here. So these intellectual persons, they moved towards the Kolkata and they wrote about the that is misery, the sorrowness, that is the very bad condition of the riots and the tyranny of the planters, whatever the tyranny, whatever they were just unjust rule, they were just forcing over the riots. These all the things have been just written by these intellectuals. Then, worried by the rebellion, the government brought in a military to protect the planters from assault and set up the Indigo Commission to inquire into the system of indigo production. Then what happened after this one? They have shown here, they have just shown here that worried by the rebellion, tensed by these revolutionaries, these peasants, the government brought in the military to protect. The government brought over the military, mainly the British government, to protect the planters from assault, protect these planters from the attack of the rebellions, and set up the Indigo Commission to inquire, to inspect into the system of indigo production. One commission has been set up. Then after, the commission held the planters guilty and criticized them for the coercive method that they use with indigo cultivators. So with the commission, it gave its report. So they found the planters, whoever the European planters were there, they found guilty. Okay. Then these planters were criticized for their coercive methods, very we can say very oppressive and very bad methods that they use with indigo cultivators. It declared that indigo production was not profitable for riots. And the commission also stated its report that the riots, whoever the riots were there, who were just cultivating the indigo, so it was not profitable for them. The commission asked the riots to fulfill their existing contract, but also told them they could refuse to produce indigo in future. So whatever the commission just stated to all the peasants, all the riots, to fulfill their whatever existing contract they had taken from the planters to fulfill it, but also told them they could refuse to produce indigo in the future. Okay. Then after the revolt, indigo production collapsed in Bengal. After this revolt, so this production has totally fell down and collapsed in the Bengal. But the planters now shifted their operation to Bihar. Now the planters, they shifted from Bengal to Bihar. Then with the discovery of synthetic dyes in the late 19th century, their business was severely affected, but yet they managed to expand production. As the synthetic fiber, it founded. So after this one, what happened? Their business was severely, very badly, it was affected. But even after that, they managed to expand the production of indigo. When Mahatma Gandhi returned from South Africa, a peasant from Bihar persuaded him to visit Champaran and see the plight of the indigo cultivators there. So when the Mahatma Gandhi, as everyone is well familiar with the father of nation, that is Mahatma Gandhi, when he came back from the South Africa, so one of the peasant, he just made him agree to come to visit to the Champaran and see the plight, see the main condition, the bad, very plight condition, very sorrow condition of the indigo cultivators there. Then Mahatma Gandhi visit in 1917 marked the beginning of the Champaran movement against the indigo planters. You might have heard about this Champaran movement, where it was initiated by the Mahatma Gandhi in Bihar, mainly in Champaran district, and which was against the indigo plantation. Okay, this is all about the thing they have given elsewhere. Even you can read here that has been given in the West Indies, how there is French missionary. Okay, so how they traveled over there, mainly in the West Indies, and how they were forced to slave plantation over there. The slaves were made by them, and how they used to indulge in the indigo plantation. Okay, then after this one, the question answers have been given, that we will discuss later. Okay.